want to say shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Makakwadash. I'd like to give double honors to elders and the apostles, a great millstone that rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noise in this gospel, bro, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is just a lesson through the spirit, man. Lord's will, it's not that long. It is a lot of information, so we're going to try to just get through some main points. But I did a lesson going into this, like I want to say earlier this year. But putting the nail in the coffin about this modern day Hebrew shit, because the thing of it is, like, you got Israelites out here that seems to adopt to more the Eleazar Ben Yehuda speaking of the Hebrew, aka Yiddish, Germanic, Slavic, part Hebrew, Arabic, all these particular forms which he made up Hebrew. As we know that in the Lashon Kodash, which is the biblical Hebrew, what they call Armenian, no, not Armenian text, but forgot, damn, man, But basically, when you go into, they call it, and I just mentioned it yesterday in the video, that's crazy. But let's just say biblical Hebrew. Okay, the Paleo Hebrew, then you had the Assyrian script, which technically Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, when we went to Babylonian captivity, we pretty much dealt with the Paleo. Okay, the Assyrian captivity, the northern kingdom that went forth within the Assyrian captivity, they dealt with more of the Assyrian script, But regardless, we dealt with the Lashon Kodash, which stands for the Holy Tongue. Now, a lot of scholars try to discredit our Hebrew, but when you speak our Hebrew, it makes a lot of sense because particular consonant sounds and vowel sounds, you don't have any long vowel, you don't have any vowel sounds in the Hebrew. I mean, you got what Esau would consider, like you got A, E, I, O, U, right? And sometimes Y, those are considered vowel sounds, right? So in Hebrew, you got A, Ba, Ga, Da, Ha, Sha, Tza, Cha, Ra, Da, Za, Tza, Pa, Kwa, Sha, I. Okay, just to name a few words in it. Ancient Hebrew, but it's no E's, no U's, no V's, any of that, which a lot of these Yah Israelites, or a lot of these Israelites that believe in the Old Testament, or a lot of these men that claim to be Hebrew Israelites, they say Yahuwah and Yahuwah, but that's not pure Hebrew, okay, because there's no long vowel sounds in it. You do the research, it tells you that there was no vowel sounds of that sort in Hebrew. Okay, so a lot of this form of Hebrew you're speaking, you get it from Eleazar Ben Yehuda, which Eleazar Ben, that's just Yiddish. Okay, Yehuda, it should have been Eleazar Ben Yehuda. Okay, Ben, his son, Yehuda means the Most High thanks, or Judah. Okay, not Yehuda, but it's Yehuda, which he's not an Israelite. When you go into the history of these guys, like they tell you, like the post-Romanian wars and the war between the like when you go into 1914, I believe, like the War of the Czars, like World War I. All these things were like propagated in order to make Israel a state in 1948. So the elites, or the so-called Zionists, I say it that way, it was already in political measures that they was going to set up a people under a political movement called the Balfour Declaration. So they had things in the tabloids in the 1800s stating that Israel would be a state in this and that, and then World War I, then World War II, which World War II was the official stamping point to put them in a land, okay? But before then, they had to establish a language in order to have some type of authenticity to say that, well, these are the Jews coming back, which in fact, that's a bold-faced lie. But this guy, Eleazar Ben Yehuda, he was a lexicographer. And if you look up the word lexicographer goes into a person that compiles or adds or compiles of dictionaries or books. Okay, so this guy, Eleazar Ben Yehuda, is responsible for adding to the modern day Hebrew, because when you go to, this is the Lashon Kodash, right? Now, all right, let's go here, right? The Lashon Kodash, this is the Hebrew we speak, right? This is what they called Ebonics Hebrew, right? This is everything that they discredit. But when you look at the lost lunar stones and you look at the ancient scripts from the tablets, it resembles this. It looks just like this. And the crazy part about it is their form of Assyrian script, which This is the Assyrian script right here. This form of the Assyrian script is not too much different from theirs, but they add the dots and the consonants and the long vowel sounds. And I believe in their Hebrew language, it's like up to 26 to almost 30 letters because they add into it. But Hebrew only had 22 characters. Okay, from the Abba, Ga, Da, Ha, Wa, Za, Cha, or Cha, Ta, Ya, Ka, La, Ma, Na, Sa, I, Pa, Tza, Kwa, Ra, Sha. And you got the Tha. Okay, so this is the Assyrian script. Okay, which, I find the Paleo a little bit more easy to understand because they're based off characteristics like you go into like the the Ba, like when you go into the Bayath, Haba means house and it looks like a roof almost, like a tent almost, and then you got the Ma here, which looks like an M, and then you got the Na, which looks like an N, then the La looks like an L, the Ka, the K, and the characteristics are kind of similar. Like when you look at the I, then it looks like a circle, okay, like an I, like an oval shape. So this is the language we speak, the Lashawan Kodash here, okay? This is the the bottom is the Syrian script, and this here is the Paleo Hebrew, okay, which is the Lashawan Kodash. Now, when you go to modern Hebrew, okay, modern Hebrew, right, or Yiddish, and it's kind of confusing, man, because there's so many different texts of this thing, man. But it looks similar because a lot of the characteristics are the same. They just pronounce them with different vowel sounds and they add into it, which this guy Eleazar did. I'm trying to find a good one though. Let's look up modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew Yiddish. And we're gonna look at the alphabet chart. And it looks like they add to it. All right. See their version of it. Okay, like they got, and it's real confusing because let me say you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, to 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 6, 2, 7, 2, 8, 2, 9, 30. Okay, you got 30 particular characters here for some of the same vowels or some of the same so-called letters, but that's in addition to it, man. When it's simple, okay, it's only 22 characters in Hebrew, but they add more to it, and it's a little bit different, but you can kind of pick up on some of it, but they add into it, man. It's more confusing in my opinion, because my thing is, why do you have to change the pure Lashawan Kodash anyway? What was wrong with the language? But it tells you here. It says when Eleazar Ben Yehuda arrived in Palestine in 1881, and this is around the time they was propagating that they was going to make them a state in 1948. Okay, it was in tabloids years before it even took place. So it's no coincidence that they set up this guy by the name of Eleazar Ben Yehuda because he was set up, man. Okay, he didn't just come out the woodworks and decide to revive a Hebrew language, because when you go into reviving, that means that something was dead, you put back life into it. But he ultimately changed it, man, and this is the modern day Hebrew that these people speak today. Yehovah, Yahuwah, Yeshua, instead of saying Yahweh, okay, Yahweh Shai, okay, Dawadad, or another Hebrew word, like Lashawan Kodash, the tongue, holy, a holy tongue, or Racha Kodash, they say Raku Kodesh. What the hell is that? It's no U's or E's in Hebrew. It's the Racha Kodash. Okay? The Holy Spirit or Spirit Holy. They say Raku Kodesh. But it says, when Eleazar Ben Yehuda arrived in Palestine in 1881, Hebrew had been the spoken language of the Jewish people since the time of the Bible. It says, yet thanks to Ben Yehuda, by 1922, enough Jewish pioneers were speaking Hebrew that the British Mandate authorities recognized it as the official language of the Jews in Palestine. Okay, but wait a minute, man. You said that when nobody's speaking Hebrew, wait a minute. You said it had not been spoken in Hebrew at the time of the Bible, but that's a lie. Because when we came over here to this side of the world, we were speaking Hebrew. Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. That's Hebrew, man. Before we got the hell beat out of us prior to getting on the cargo slave ships, we were speaking Hebrew, broken forms of Hebrew. Okay, like when Gad was saying, when they singing spiritual hymns that, Yahusho or the Great Spirit, when they was going into their particular songs and the hymns, they were speaking broken forms of Hebrew, man. Okay, Native Americans spoke broken forms of Hebrew, and you can read about that in what is it called, the lost tribes in Promised Land, which the 10 tribes or the Northern Kingdom, they've never been lost tribes, man. And if they were so lost, you wouldn't have had Columbus, which had 5 Hebrew tour guides that came over here to understand the language that Gad and Reuben was speaking on this side of the world. So Hebrew has actually been spoken at the so-called, which we're still in biblical times, but Hebrew has been spoken. Okay, even though it wasn't like in its purest direct form because we lost over the course of time, but Jake was still speaking Hebrew, man. So that's a damn lie right there. But this is just another way for them to discredit the real Israelites awakening up in this time, man. And that's all that it's about. But it says, Ben Yehuda conceived of Jewish nationalism as both the return of historical homeland and the land of Israel, see, and as well as the revival of the Hebrew language. Now, when you look up the word revival, right, revival goes into improvement, comeback. Okay, so when you revive something, mean that you're making it somewhat better. Okay, like if you revive a house, like if a house is derelict and the house is still standing, but you build up, that means that you're adding new components to this house to make it more modernized, man. But the Hebrew didn't need to be changed because it was already perfect. But this was just a ploy used for those rats to assume our heritage and our identity. Okay, but it says as well as the revival of the Hebrew language, which that's not real Hebrew. It says to accomplish the latter, Ben Yehuda, because if it was real Hebrew, he would say Ban Yahawada instead of Ben Yehuda. But see, this is the language that these people adopt today, and they write our language off as being nothing but mere dogma. But yet our language sounds more pure, it has more power to it, and it's simple. Okay, now me personally, I had a hard time. Well, I won't say a hard time, man, because I actually learned Hebrew fairly. It's really easy to learn, but really applying yourself. My thing was, my focus at a point in time wasn't as great. So applying myself to the Assyrian script was never one of my strong points because I didn't apply the time to it. It was just like, man, what is this? But when I look at the paleo, it's like it came just like that. But now I could look at the Assyrian script and I could know exactly, what it's saying. I know what it's saying. I can read it, to some degree. And then sometimes I still forget words, so I have to go back and look at it, man. It's called being stupid brain. And when you've been here in America so long and you wore out, your brain don't really work the same, But regardless of it, man, it says to accomplish the latter, Ben Yehuda needed to inspire a near impossible feat to transform Hebrew, which for centuries had been used only in study, into a modern spoken language. Okay, and it goes into like all his other history and stuff, which honestly speaking, we don't really give a damn about his history because it tells you here that it was all it's kind of skeptical because wait a minute, if you're so-called Jewish or if you were one of the people, then why the hell are we going into the Russo-Turkish wars, man? Which shows you that the Ottoman Turks from the Ottoman Empire, then you got the Khazarian Empire, then you got what they call Sephardic Jews. All these people come out of particular Germany, Turkey, Russia, the Caucasus and so forth, which you did have Israelites that was dispersed among them, but the Israelites were always people of color. You know what I'm saying? And we lived in separate regions from the heathen, man, So this can't fit you. But it says Ben Yehuda further inspiration in European nationalist movement. Look up nationalists. It says in the 19th century, Italy and Greece, both countries with ties to ancient lands and language, became independent nations. It says in 1877, the year Ben Yehuda's graduated from high school, the Russo-Turkish War began and brought prominence to Bulgarian national movement and sought independence from the Ottomans, which the Ottoman Turks ain't nothing but Edomites, man, mingled with Ishmaelites. You could read about that. Esau married daughters of Ishmael. Okay, but it says about preeminence to the Bulgarian national movements that sought independence from the Ottomans. Envisioning the Jews as a nation akin to the Bulgarians, Greeks, Italians, Ben Yehuda became determined to help create a nation where the Jews can adopt Hebrew as their national language. Wait a minute, why they need to adopt it if it was already their language? You know, see, it's all psychobabble. But it says here, soon after Ben Yehuda learned that Jewish communities were using Hebrew to communicate with other languages would survive, historians now know that this phenomenon had existed since the Middle Ages in Europe and Near East. But in Jerusalem, for example, Jews spoke Yiddish, French, and Arabic colloquially, okay? Meaning, let's look this word up. In language, ordinary or familiar conversation, language, ordinary food. Okay, so it's a familiar tongue, okay? But they spoke Yiddish, French, and Arabic because that's all Yiddish is. Yiddish is basically a group of mixed languages that they call Hebrew today. So even the Hebrew that they speak today is still Yiddish. That's why you see all the dots and the consonant sounds and so forth. But in our Hebrew, it's not like that. Okay, so going here, like it says, the lexicographer, which means the study of lexicons, is divided into two separate academic disciplines, the art of compiling dictionaries. Okay, and this is what this guy was responsible for doing. Okay, so going back here, it says he is the renowned lexicographer of the first Hebrew dictionary and also the editor of Jerusalem-based Haziv, one of the most Hebrew newspapers published in the land of Israel. It says Ben Yehuda was the primary driving force behind the revival of the Hebrew language, which the Hebrew language never needed to be revived because the Holy Spirit gave us back the understanding of these things, man, through, elder high priest Ariah, and then you had high priest Shar, and then you had Abba Bivens, you had King Mashah, these men that the Holy Spirit was dealing with to bring us back into the wisdom and knowledge and understanding according to, what is that when it says that I would send Elijah the prophet and he should restore the people, roughly paraphrasing it. Not this devil, okay? Look at this, it says here, he was he was born in the Russian Empire, now in Belarus. This dude ain't no Israelite, man. He was set up. The revival of the Hebrew language. Yeah, so that's basically where they get their Hebrew from, man. And like I said, it's a lot of information. We could kind of go into this, be like all day. But nonetheless, man, just to make it quick, we just a little couple of points here and there just to give you brothers a little understanding. But this is the Hebrew book, that we study, that I'm pretty much every brother got, which is the Lashuan Kodash. This is the actual Lashuan Kodash, the Hebrew. Okay. And then it says the symbolic meanings of some Hebrew letters. And it's so dope because like I said, like the whole Bayath house, it looks like a tent. Then you got a lop, okay, or the Hebrew word alap, or the in Hebrew, which is a cattle, okay, or like the head, okay. But you got the ga, okay, which looks like a camel's hump, which looks like a 7 almost, and then you got the da, or the delath, or you got for the door, or it's like a tent flare, okay. Then you got the wa, which looks like a fish hook, za, or zayan, which means weapon, and then you got the ya, which is like a hand almost, man. Okay, even going back down to I, like I was saying, it looks like an eye. So characters in the Paleo Hebrew actually represents some form of fashion of what they look like almost, man. You know what I'm saying? That's how you was able to get understanding. It's like kind of when we were younger, how when we learned our ABCs, man, we had like those little colorful blocks, and then we had things to represent. Like you have the B block, and then you have a boy or something, to kind of get you to picture it, to familiarize yourself with it. And that's how Hebrew was, man. So anyway, one more thing. Native Americans spoke Hebrew. And a lot of this stuff they try to cover up. Okay, like it says argue that Native American language could be seen to have been descended from Hebrew. Okay, even the Mormons, they admit that God is the lost tribes. See, you got a lot of arguments exploring the connection between Jews and Native Americans. As a matter of fact, let's look this up. Yep. The Lost Luna. And what does this look like? That look like the ancient Paleo script. Why was Gad speaking his language? And when you look at that, right, it looks similar to this. See, the languages are similar in Salakia. It's just the book is sideways. So that's just how it is by default. It's the way it was printed. But you get the point. But when you see this, and you see this, it looks similar. And they found this over. This was all over the Americas, man, from Canada all the way down to New Mexico to Mexico, okay, to the Missouri. This language was spoken all across the continent. This is why Columbus had 5 speaking Hebrew tour guides when he came to America, or what they call Asareth, because he knew that there were Israelites on this side of the world. If you may understand the history of that, man. Okay, and Lord's will, we go into a little bit more. I'm getting more into that history anyway. So I got like books and stuff. I've just been going back over and reread and refamiliarizing myself with different historical points, and, you know, bring out the edification when the time comes, man. Because these Christians, hey, they don't have a leg to stand on at this point. And we are to be defenders of the gospel. Scriptures say, be not ignorant of anything small or great. Okay, so, hey, we got to know our shit. But anyway, let's get a couple of precepts here, nothing too long. Acts 26, and I'm going to start at verses... Let's start at 14. It says, and when we were all falling to the earth, I heard a voice speaking unto me and saying in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, what persecutest me thou? Is it hard for thee to kick from the pricks? Okay. And it says the Hebrew tongue, because what language did the Israelites speak? He spoke Hebrew. Okay. What was the primary language of Judea and Samaria? It was Hebrew, Lashawan Kodash, which Hebrew goes back into the word Ibar, which means of ancient or of old. Okay, you had a man in the scriptures by the name of Ibar. Now, when you go into the word, in the English, it says Eber, but it's Ibar, which means the Hebrew. Okay, which Hebrew was the first language. That's the language of the heavens, and that's the language that we all spoke. Okay, they call it Phoenician Hebrew. Even Hamite spoke Hebrew. Esau spoke Hebrew. Okay, that was the common language of the planet Earth, man. But over time, you know, once everything got mixed up and dispersed, languages start to evolve and become other things. But every word derives from the Hebrew. Even your modern day alphabet, your A, B, C, D, your A, I, your B, Ba, you know, your C, which is no C's in Hebrew, but D, you know, you got the Dai, E, F, G, Ga, you know, Ha, H. Those all come out of the ancient Hebrew, man. All right. One more thing, and I'm just read the epilogue of Sirach, or the prologue, Salaki. It says the prologue of the wisdom of Yahushai, son of Sirach, whereas many and great things have been delivered unto us by the law and the prophets, and by others that have followed their steps, for the which things Israel ought to be commended for learning and wisdom. It says, and whereof not only the readers must needs to become skillful themselves, because it is a skill to learn these things, and it takes study, it takes practice, it takes dedication. You know, like Apostle Gabar, he always say, the mastery of skill is repetition. Okay, so the more you do something, the more perfected you become. Jake's problem is Jake don't want to apply the time and effort into it because Jake don't believe in himself. Okay, Jake sells himself short, but usually with just a little effort, man, and consistency, you would be surprised on what you can retain. You know, but it says, but also they that desire to learn to be able to profit them which are without, both by speaking and writing. It says, my grandfather Yahushai, when he had made much, or when he had much given himself to the reading of the law and of the prophets and other books of our fathers, and had gotten therein good judgment, was drawn on also himself to write something pertaining to learning and wisdom. It says, to the intent that those which are desirous to learn and are addicted to these things, because it's a spirit that compels you to want to learn these things, man. And every brother is not really into the Hebrew because it's not their strong point. We get it, you know, each to his own. It's a balance and everything. But nonetheless, you still have some basic understanding of it, or at least the names or what means with the alphabet, you know. Also, brothers, learn your tribes in Hebrew, man, and learn what they mean, you know. Every morning I used to look at the 12 tribe sign and go through it and recite the meaning of the tribes, man. I mean, it's the least you can do. That way you could continue to repeat it, and that way you'll know it on point. You know, it takes 5 minutes, man. You go through, you know what I'm saying, all the 12 tribes, man. You know, and just familiarize yourself with it. Like, you got Judah, Yehuda, Benjamin, Benjamin, Levi, Loya, Simeon, Shemaiah, Zebulun, Zabawalan, Ephraim, Aparium, okay, Manasseh, Manashah, Gad, same thing, Reuben, Rabbban, Naphtali, Naphtaliah, okay, and then you got Ashar or Asher, Ashar, and then Issachar, Yashakar. You know, and it's just simple, man, and it's just something you retain over time. But it says, desires and are addicted to these things which may profit much more in living according to the law. It says, wherefore, let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention and to pardon us, wherein we may seem to come short of some words which you have labored to interpret. Okay, so there you go. It's effort into it, because it's not the easiest thing in the world. It takes time and dedication and focus to really get into these things, you know. And it says here, wherefore let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention and to pardon us, wherein we may seem to come short of some words which we have labored to interpret. It says, for the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference for when they are spoken in their own language. Okay, so it proves that Hebrew is a more powerful language. It's more pure. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have something like when you water something down, you may still have the components of the natural solvents, but overall, the potency of the original batch is always stronger. You know, right now we're dealing with more diluted through the English, but nonetheless, you know, it gives us the point. All right, let me bring out this one last precept. Small, great, and we end it. Yep, this is the book of Sirach 5, and I'm going to start at verses 15. It says, be not ignorant of anything in a great matter. It says, be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or small. So, yeah, man, it's, you know, it pays to know these things, you know, and to understand your language and to understand, you know, the history of how Esau, Edom came in and try to revise our language. And now they're calling it Yiddish or modern day Hebrew, you know, which is clearly not really Hebrew at all. Like I said, there's no vowel sounds in Hebrew. Okay, or no long vowel sounds, I say it to you that way, because you got an A, you got A, then you got I, okay, then you got E, then you got E. You know, they told us these things in elementary school. You know what I'm saying? Then you got I, then you got C and K, which sometimes make the same sound. That's fucking confusion, man. You know what I'm saying? But one more precept, and I'll end it. I know I said that twice, but this here, the book of Revelation 2, and I'm going to start at verses 9. It says, I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but of the synagogues of Satan, man. All right, and that's you devils, even though this is talking about Israelites. But, you know, we can apply it to you devils, too, because you're the one that's assuming the identity of the children of Israel. But yet you can't tell us where the other 11 tribes went. You know, everybody is Judah, or as they call Yehuda, Benjamin, or Levi. They call him Levi. You know, but anyway, man, Lord's will, you were edified until the next lesson. Call all Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Shalom.